stop the content.
We can ask the audience. We'll get into it.
All right, for sure. I'm excited for this one. We got a special episode. I think we should change it up in honor of Father's Day coming up, and obviously all of us are fathers. So I think it'd be cool to talk about something a little different, man, and get into a different conversation. So I want to talk about what you guys think the difference of like a dad and a father is. So what I was trying to record, if you guys don't know, was they were going back and forth on what the difference really is, or the I guess what would you say, like the order, like okay, a dad is, you just had a kid, and a father is, someone who actually, is there actively parenting you and loving on you and all that stuff. Now that, because Dylan, that was a good point that you made. What'd you say?
Well, I had a couple points. All right. Here's the thing. When I feel weird, because Leighton's got his brand, and I don't know, I need to know what his brand means.
No, you're good.
But all right, when you like are signing stuff, right? It asks father, mother. It doesn't say dad, mom. Right? So father would just be the term that you are called because you're the parent. But you have to earn the title dad through taking care of the child and loving them and being there for them. Morgan has a different opinion. So let's hear Morgan's opinion. Go ahead.
Low key, like after you said it like that it sounds backwards. I've been saying it the other way this whole time.
Well, yeah. So my initial thought was the opposite, that dad is the title that you just get for having a child, and then father is someone that actually is like taking care. But I guess if you watch Maury growing up, and they're like, all right, who's the father? And they would pull out that sheet of paper from the manila envelope and be like, you're not the father. Then I guess that kind of makes sense.
They're out.
I guess that makes sense. But my initial thought was like, I don't know, like, oh yeah, that's my fault. I don't know. I mean, I guess it makes sense. But I was thinking the opposite. But either way, moral of the story, the point is one is given and one is earned, and that's the biggest difference.
For sure.
So what do you think when they say father figure? Like, and I don't know what to think, so I want to get your guys' opinion. What about you, Leighton? Like, when they say father figure, what do you think that is? Like, is that just because see, that confuses me, right? If you're a father figure, that seems like it's just more than a title now. So what do you think that means then?
Yeah, I think that's subjective too. Like, it's like an opinion, like, because it's when you say whatever figure, like, this is my father figure, or what other figure would they say? Like, I don't know, like my.
I think.
I mean, I really only. I was gonna say. Wait, say again. Sorry.
No, if you had like a coach growing up, they're like,
okay. Then you could say, yeah, but still, I only hear it with like father figure though. I don't really hear it with mother figure or sister figure. Like that doesn't even sound right as I say it. So like, I don't know. I just think it's like subjective, where you can. It's really just whatever you think embodies a father, like whatever example that is. Like, oh, he's my father figure. He wasn't my actual dad or my actual father, but he was that father figure to me. So I think it's just like, whatever you think being a father is, whatever that embodies, then you're like, call him your father figure. But I think it's just that somebody who just kind of takes you under their wing, right? Probably has more experience than you on something, then they're teaching you something, they're mentoring you, they're coaching you, whatever it is, and they're just kind of pouring into you, and you can kind of lean on them. Like, it's almost like, I don't know, you think of dad, and or at least a good one anyways, you normally think of someone who's, not literally, well, it's sometimes, bigger. Like, you think of a strong man, you think of someone who like can protect you throughout whatever, someone who's tough, who not necessarily is problematic, but doesn't take crap. Like, they're just strong, beings. And I think, someone who like embodies that is considered like can be considered a father figure, especially if you don't have that and you're kind of searching for that. So that's my opinion. And I think, I think this episode, because you're asking me, like, did you look anything up before, like in preparation for the episode what we're going to talk about? And I said no, partly because I have a lot of stuff to say on this topic anyways, not growing up with my dad. And in this example, when you ask what I think a father figure, what that really means, it kind of ties together with my opinion anyways, because I was always searching for that because he wasn't there. I was always looking for that father figure in different people. Whether or not I knew it, when I was a little kid, I was like, oh, this person's like, he's like my dad, whatever. He was, always here, and he's not my dad, but he's like my dad, so it's like, it was something that I can relate to. So I think that's what it is.
That's good. So, all right, we're getting somewhere.
Yep.
Well, this is good because it's like I've never really thought of it. I use them interchangeably. Dad, father, Morgan and Leighton, my poppy, right? I appreciate that.
Depends who's calling me.
What's that?
That depends who's calling me, Poppy.
Oh man.
But I have a quick question.
Go for it.
What do you guys think? It's interesting because Leighton just said, like, you don't really hear people say mother figure, you just hear people say father figure. And I think there's a reason behind that. Right? I think there's a reason behind that. It might just be stereotypical. It might not even be a real statistic. I don't know. But why do you guys think that mother figure really isn't something that we hear a lot of, but father figure we hear often?
Well, I could be totally off, but this is what I'm thinking. I don't know the statistics, so don't quote me, but I feel like there are less real, well, depending on how you go about it, fathers, dads, but I feel like
let's just go with your example, that dad is what you earn, father is what you're given, so it makes more sense.
Okay, so I get annoyed because you hear about so many stories of dads or fathers not being in their children's lives. So a father figure in that case is like anyone that can take responsibility for a child. And so when Leighton was talking about like a coach can be a father figure or whatever, it's basically saying like, look at whoever's willing to, it might not be financially provide, but it might be someone who, like you said, Morgan, mentors you or helps you through a time in your life and becomes that foundation for you. And so I think it's interesting, right? Because we're trying to say the difference between the two. And I'm thinking a father is a title you're given for, for that being your child, and a dad is something you've earned. But then we're saying father figure can be placed on anyone now. so it's interesting. But I think the reason for it is because anyone can come in and be that father figure for the child, because they're basically taking that, I don't want to say responsibility, but they're taking the responsibility of helping that child or helping that person grow through certain points in time. So I think that's why different people can be that father figure. I think there's no mother figure because mothers are always in the lives, and freaking fathers are idiots and don't take responsibility for their children. And so it's like, you don't got to say that because the mothers are always usually there.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's exactly what I was going to say. That the simple thing is just the mom is very rarely the one that's not in the picture. So you don't hear, oh, like she was like my mother figure. Like that sounds weird even saying it. Like you just don't hear it because, 9 times out of 10, like obviously there's some situations where like, like my dad was in prison. Like there's situations where the mom, goes to prison for something crazy and the dad steps up. But that story is almost like even crazy to hear because you never hear it. But like if you hear, oh, my dad was, locked up, whatever, at least in our community, obviously it's like that's a normal thing. Like, oh, for sure. Like it's almost more rare. I almost don't want to say it because I don't want to make it just the like, set us back. But it's like it's almost more common to hear that you didn't grow up with your dad than you did. And that's like, not cool, but it's just the reality for a lot of people. So with that being said, it's just the simple answer is like, well, yeah, the mom is always the one that's there. I don't know. That's, it's that's definitely something that has to change. Um, but but yeah, like you said, Dylan, it's one of those things where it's like you have to it's whoever steps up to take on that role, right? I mean, same thing with a mother role. You can still have, and that's the thing too, like you can still have other father figures even if you have your dad in your life. Same with other mother figures or mother roles, even though you have your mom. It's just you obviously your main ones, if you have your parents, are going to be your parents. But you can still like have your dad, your mom and dad in your life, but then your coach is like, you just love your coach. You just like super motivating. He's always like, always telling you how special you are. Like, dude, you can do this, whatever, right? And that can still be, I mean, I guess, because then I guess you don't really think of it as a father figure. You think of like, oh, it's kind of like my uncle. Like, only it's like it kind of changes. I don't know. I don't know what you guys think, but like, I feel like you don't really, when you have your dad or you have your mom, you don't really call someone your mom or dad. I mean, I've heard someone say my second parents, like, oh yeah, it's my second mom or whatever. So I have heard that before. But I feel like you kind of change it, like, I don't know, subconsciously, just out of respect for them. Like, oh, he's like my uncle or whatever. Like, you just don't say it. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think it depends on the situation. Like I used to consider my grandma like a second mom to us.
Mhm.
Because when my parents split, well, we grew up, we were born and raised living with my grandma. So when my parents split, a lot of times my mom was working and my grandma was the one that was taking care of us at the house. So things like that. So I can understand why people would say something like that. But then again, like my grandma's my grandma, you know what I mean? So she's like still family. So I'm like, oh yeah, my grandma's like my second mom. Because
Yeah.
not every grandma is involved in their grandchildren's lives to the extent that our grandma was in our life. Simply
Mhm.
because most grandkids do not live in the same house as their grandparent,
Mhm.
right? So I can understand how some people wouldn't say that, but for us, she really was like a second mom because we lived with her and she was always there for everything. So I think in our situation, it kind of made sense. So I could see it.
Mhm. So what do you guys think about so I feel like we still haven't really cleared up what order or how we think it goes, like a dad versus a father, but let's get into that then. So what so how do you, so okay, let's just say the fact that like what we said, father is just a title given to you, because you think about it, it actually is, like you said, you sign the birth certificate, you do all this stuff, it's like mom or mother, father. um but then if you like don't have a relationship with your dad, you're not going to call him dad. Like you might even call him by his first name or something, but you won't be like, oh, what's up, dad, or whatever. You'll kind of like, but that's weird too. You wouldn't say what's up, father. Like that sounds. So, anyways, I'm just thinking about stuff, but you won't call him dad, basically. You know what I'm saying? So I think that
Mhm.
alone is telling me kind of, what makes sense. But um, so let's say that father's a title given to you and dad is something that you earn. How do you feel you earn that? The obvious answer is loving your kid, but like, how do you
Mhm.
feel that you really earn that? What's the real difference?
Go
Uh,
ahead.
I would give a quick example. I know Dylan's got some good stuff, but I would just give a quick example of without getting into like all these other things. One of the things that I really appreciate our father about, or yeah, our dad, our father, whatever, um, is even though our parents got divorced, most of the time when that happens, I feel like most of the time when the father leaves or whatever and goes to a different state, a lot of times kids end up like not having any connection really with their dad, right? The dad kind of leaves, does his own thing. And I don't know, like the mom gets full custody and all that stuff, and the dad's really not in their life anymore. The one thing I really appreciated about our dad was even though our parents got divorced and my dad was living in another state, and he was struggling really financially at that time too. I had a conversation with him the other, probably a couple months ago, and I just told him the one thing I appreciated about him was that he was still super active in our lives, always talking to us on the phone. And I'd have football games. I played football growing up, and so in high school we'd have Friday night football games, and he lived in Utah. And so he would do an extra job just to get enough money to pay for the gas. And he would take off at 4 in the morning on Friday morning. He would get there around like 10 or 11 in the morning. He would watch my football game. And then Saturday morning, he would wake up at 4 in the morning. He'd take off, get back to Utah so that he can also work on Saturday. And like, honestly, man, like to me, that made a huge impact as much as like a lot of crap that happened between my mom and dad that wish never happened, wish we never heard or saw. The one thing that I always tell my dad that I'm like super, super grateful for and really proud is that even though he had every excuse to completely take himself out of the picture, he made every excuse not to,
Mhm.
right? And he put in the effort, which is a lot of effort to like go early in the morning, drive 6 hours to get to California, be there for just a few hours to watch my game, and then the next morning wake up early again, which I'm sure he was tired, drive all the way back by himself. So I don't know, man, just to give an example, I think that that is like a perfect example of like what a dad should be doing, you know?
That's gnarly.
Mhm.
Yeah, dude, for sure. Like that's that's gnarly, dude. That's like that's a super cool story because most wouldn't do that, right?
Mm.
Like if it was flipped, like I've almost, I'm used to hearing. I'm not. That's it's such. I don't know. I'm just gonna say it, like I feel like I'm used to hearing mom stories like that. Like, oh yeah, I used to do this. Like they'll do anything for their kids. And not to say that dads won't. You don't hear it as often. So like that's like, you know, dude, super super rad for sure. Um, and
Mhm.
so another thing I was going to say too. So with that being said, since we're kind of like, I know you guys were nodding your head, kind of in agreement of like, you hear mom stories like, oh, I would drive 6, 7, 8, 20 hours for my son. It doesn't matter to me. I'm there, right? But then a dad, like, that's like, dude, that's a crazy story because we don't hear it very often. With that being said, do you feel like that another thing you said in the story was just a statistic of most moms get full custody and the dads, kind of just do their thing. Do you think that's because the court knows like just kind of how moms usually are, like they're going to do everything and the dads might not be I don't know, it's like I don't want to sound not politically correct, especially because I'm a dad too. I don't want to sound like I'm like negligent or something. Someone gonna knock on my door like, what the heck, bro, I heard your podcast. But anyways, but they feel like the mom is just the one that's always going to do the 200%, like they're going to do whatever, but in the dads, not so much. Do you think it's because they know that they most of the time get 100 for like custody, or what?
I mean, it's possible. I think it's really sad and just a little shout out, little slap in the face to all the dads out there. Like this kind of stuff that we're talking about right now, it's reality,
Mhm.
right? There's a reason why we're all like talking about these topics and like, oh yeah, like we usually don't hear this about dads, but we hear it about moms, or we usually don't hear this about moms, but we always hear it about dads. Um, which is sad, man. So like for all you males out there that are not a dad yet, or for all you that are dads yet, um, like step up to the plate, man. Step up to the plate. Like children need a dad in their life. Like they need a dad. There's things that dads teach their kids. There's things that dads bring to the table, bring to the family that a mother simply just can't bring because we are different. We are different people, right? We are made differently. Like we think differently. There's a reason why dads are supposed to be in the lives of children. And it's sad. Like so many dads, fathers out there, they want to do the act that allows them to get a girl pregnant, but they don't want to step up to the plate and handle their responsibility. So they want to have all the fun, but they don't want to have any responsibility. And it's that stereotype, right? The stereotype is true because of actions of irresponsible men in the past, right? So it's like if that hits you in the face, there's a reason why for all of you that are out there, like step up to the plate, right? If you can if you're mature enough to do the act to get a girl pregnant, well then be mature enough to take care of what you created, right? Because they don't deserve to grow up without a dad. They deserve to grow up with someone that's going to love them, that's going to take care of them, that's going to teach them right from wrong. And so it's a frustrating topic for me, man, because like I see my little girl and I know you guys feel the same. There's no way in heck, dude. There's no way in heck I would ever leave that little girl by herself or with just her mom. Like, dude, like you better believe I'm gonna do anything I can to be in her life and to teach her and to help her and to mold her and to let her know right from wrong, to protect her, all that stuff. I just can't believe it, dude. I just can't believe how many men, right, or little boys actually, because you can't really be a man if you're going to shrug from the responsibility of taking care of a child. How many little boys with little boy mindsets can have a little bit of fun, right? They think they're all big and bad because they can have some fun, and then they freaking turn their shoulders and walk away, and they're like, "Oh no, I'm not going to take care of that kid."
Yeah,
So
for real.
freaking annoying, dude. So to answer your question, I think there's a possibility because it happens all the time.
I think there's two different ways. And sorry, I'll change the mood a little bit because I feel like I was being a little gloomy, but I just want to not play devil's advocate, but just like be realistic. Like let's talk about the stuff that people are thinking, but they don't want to say.
Yeah.
And I think so. Two different things. You can take our situation two different ways. You can either turn out like us, where like because of what we went through when we were younger, that we're not gonna ever have that happen to our kids now, or you could just be because like I think it is a mental thing for sure. Like you have something like that happen to you, you're almost like doomed to repeat it just because that's just kind of how the cycle. That's why they say break the cycle. So you can either turn out like the way we did, more this direction, or you can turn out the other direction where you end up repeating it because like, this is what you're used to. Like, oh, it's no big deal. Like they did it to us. Like it's what happens. It's normal, right? If you're not happy or something, you get an argument, split up, right, or whatever it is. And so I just think there's two different ways of looking at it, and it shouldn't just be that black and white. There's obviously way more that goes into it, but I think that this is something that it's a conversation that's absolutely worth having because the fact of the matter is, regardless, like us three alone, we all went through a different situation. Like things happened, right, when we were younger, and we're not the only ones, right? This is a lot of people's stories, and so now, hopefully there because of that, then there's going to be new generations that kind of get better with time, just because they don't want to go through the stuff that they went through when they were younger, and so it kind of just gets better how it should be anyways. But obviously some people repeat the cycle and they don't get out of that, and it happens. It's nothing, the world's not going to ever be perfect, but yeah, I forgot what I was going to ask you, Dylan, to set that. Oh yeah. So anyways, like you said, Morgan, like obviously having a father figure is super important. Guys need to step up, kids need their dads in their life. And I was just thinking like, yeah, for sure. Why else would when I was growing up, why would I be searching for a father figure in these not random people, that's weird, but in these different like men in my life? Why would I be searching for that if it wasn't important? So what I was going to ask you guys, and I was going to ask you, Dylan, was just for a time or a story that you had with your dad, like whether it was just you and him, or it was like you and your brothers, or whoever, but just like a time with your dad where you like it was like kind of like a moment with Morgan, like dude, he used to drive out to come watch my games, like something where I was like, dude, I needed that, and I looked back and like, man, like I'm super appreciative or grateful for that, if you can think of one off the top of your head.
Yeah, for sure. So one specific, I remember we went fishing at Irvine Lake, and I remember that day there was like so much going on to where he had every reason to not take me, but he saw how excited I was to go fishing because I love fishing, and he took me. And it was interesting looking back now because we went out there, went fishing. He rented a little boat. I remember it's a lake, bro, and I'm like fishing with my deep sea lures that are like 6 to 7 inches long, like massive lures for these little trout. Like they're like the size of the fish, and I'm thinking like, this is what I need to do. Yeah, and I'm like, this is probably scaring the fish away. It's got the massive treble hooks, like just this big lure, and I'm like fishing, and then some guy comes over and he's like, hey, like, you guys should probably use this lure instead. And it's like this little tiny gold lure. The whole day we weren't catching anything, and then at the end my dad's asking him questions, what lure, this and that, and we used that lure, and we, at the last 30 minutes, we caught 11 trout, rainbow trout, a ton, right? And so a couple points to that story. One, there's a lot going on that day, and I remember he was flustered because of other stuff, and he still took me. He knew how important it was to me. He was willing, like we talked about last podcast, he was willing to not know what lures to use and talk to another person and not be prideful and be like, no, I'm a man, I could do this. And listen to someone else, take advice from him on what lures to use. And right, it sounds like such a small thing, but when you look at it now, it's like, that's a prime example. I want to just add one thing. I know I'm backtracking to what Morgan said, because I think it's important and it ties in. So moments like that, my dad and I always talk about, right? We always talk about that day where we caught 11 fish. Morgan, were you there?
No.
I know Chad was there. Chad was there, and so Chad's my other brother. So we're throwing the line out, and it was freezing that day. And I remember we had a massive fish on the line. Like, I'm like, dude, this pole's gonna break. So Chad's like running out into the water. The dude catches the fish with his hands, right? And he's like, yeah, and we're all just cheering, like, yeah, like so proud, It's like that was like the 10th or 11th fish, as if we needed more. But I think about that moment, and then I think about what Morgan said, how like you do the acts, but you don't take responsibility. And dude, like, the world needs to change the view on this, because I think people sit there and act like a consequence of having sex is a baby. But then there's people out there that can't have children. And so this isn't a consequence, this is a blessing, right? So it's like if my dad didn't have the last child, which is me, then we wouldn't have shared that moment together that we always talk about, right? And so I think what people need to start realizing, that it is a huge blessing. There's no greater blessing than being a dad, right? Than having a child. And I think being a dad is putting your children before you, putting them before your needs. Because we live in a world where we're very selfish. Everyone, like, dude, you go on TikTok, right? Or, I don't know if I'm supposed to say the word, but you go on social media and you're like scrolling through it, not even with a purpose, just to get your own fix, right? You're just like scrolling through it and you're like, oh, this is funny and this and that, because of how you want to feel, right? Like yesterday, I'm on social media, right? And I'm scrolling through when we got back from the office last night. I'm scrolling through, and then I look up and I notice Serena's like picking stuff up. And I was like, oh shoot, I put my phone away, and I'm like, helping her out pick stuff up. And I'm like, I was selfishly just like scrolling through social media because I just wanted to. I had no purpose. It was like midnight, And so I think so many people nowadays are selfish, and especially fathers are selfish, and they're like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. Listen, you guys gotta step up. You have the blessing of this child. You helped create this little human, and so God entrusted you with this baby. So now it's time for you to step up, and not even like step up, because it shouldn't even be step up. Yeah. Right? Like, that's just normal, being their dad, being their father, being their dad. Like, so just be that. Like, I don't understand how you can look at, like, after this webinar or podcast, I'm gonna go get my son. I'm gonna walk in the bedroom with this crazy long hair all over his face, And then I'm gonna walk in. He's like, Dad, right? Like it almost gets me emotional because it's like, dude, like you guys need to take responsibility for this.
Mhm.
Like it, they're such beautiful little beings, you know? Like how amazing is that you are given the blessing to take care of this little child and like help them grow and develop. And you know, we took Onyx to the beach on the weekend and this kid was so excited. Like like dude, I'll show you guys videos later, but the waves were coming at him and he was like just screaming. I was like, it's gonna get you. And he's like, ah, like running. And he was like just so happy. And I was like, man, like this is what it is. Like, I don't care if I lived in like a freaking tent the rest of my life. As long as I could be in this child's life, I'm good, you know?
Exactly.
So I kind of went like all over, but I just want to tie it into what Morgan said. It's like, dude, it's such a blessing.
Mhm.
You know, it's not a consequence of having a relationship with another woman. It's a blessing
Mhm.
to get that. So
Dude, I love it, man. It's awesome, bro. Like for sure. I mean, you can tell like it's super, it's important to all of us, but you can tell, man, like that, you know, how much Onyx means to you. And it's just dude, it's just legit, bro. I just to end it on like a high positive note, because that was just like that was great. Like we could end it off on that. But as you were talking, I was thinking, I was like, dude, like it's freaking fun being the dad anyways. Like you know, bro. And don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you like, oh, I'm having a blast all the time. Cause like sometimes, like, bro, like my daughter, I'm just like, dude, you need to calm down. Like that attitude. But like as far as the role, like if I it's not like you choose, but like if I had to choose, like the being the dad is like the fun one. Like at least you get to like you think about your parents and you think of dude, this is wrong too. Again, I'm gonna be the devil's advocate the whole episode. But you think about your parents and you think of like which one's the fun parent, the one that's joking around, the one that wants to go and play sports with you, the one like the actor, like you know, you think of the dad most of the time. Like I'm just gonna be honest. Like the one he's always messing around, he doesn't take anything seriously. Well, some people have dads that take everything too seriously, but you know what I'm saying. Um, and it's just funny, man. It's a good time for sure because me I'll laugh too because Betsy will be like something will happen like Zuleika will fall or something and she's on like oh like runs up to it I'm just laughing like yeah we like toss her around some more like
should be all right.
yeah dude it's just fun like you're just like man it's cool like this is our role to just be the cool ones like just have some fun, you know. So, anyways, I wanted to end it on that because I thought about that when you said, you know, that trip, the fishing trip you went on, and just having a good time, man. Like that's so sick, bro. I love it. Super sick, man. Well, dude, honestly, I tried to stop saying that this is gonna be my favorite episode, everything, to save it for a really good one, and I feel like this is the one. So I gotta say it. This is my favorite one thus far, anyways. But keep tuning in though. You know what I'm saying? Because this is your favorite right now. But wait until next week. So anyway,
Next week's gonna be even better.
yeah, man. Keep tuning in. Let's get these subscription numbers up, baby. All right, cool. Super, super sick, man. I appreciate you guys. So till next week.